Hello everyone, Ryan here again. Going to break down some basics of etymology, following words in the Western movement of language, as words become different languages in different cultures, and going to bring a syncretic or syncretism view to these root words. And we're going to use Adam and Eve and the tree of life, or the tree of knowledge. So in the Garden of Eden, we're going to use the words Adam and Eve to show the etymology of Hebrew, Greek, and English roots that have significant meaning for words we use every day. And I'm going to start off by reading from the Hermetica, some Hermes, as Hermes was Egyptian and a big influence of mine. And before I do that, I just want to let you guys know that what I'm presenting here today is 100% straight up from Santos Bonacci and his sources. So I want to make sure I give credit to him. He's leading the forefront of syncretic thought, universal mind thinking, basically defragmenting your mind into wholeness through all the sciences, philosophies, religions, and such. So please look at Santos Bonacci. All right. Talking about language, we are looking at the words of Hermes. Mind and speech are great gifts that Atum bestowed on humans alone. Used wisely, they make a man like the immortal gods, only different, and that he is incarnate in a physical form. When he leaves behind this body, mind and speech will be his guides, leading him to join the company of gods and other souls that have attained supreme bliss. Other creatures have voice, but not speech. Each living creature has its own unique voice, but not speech. But speech is shared in common by all humans. Humankind is one, and speech is also one. It is translated from tongue to tongue. Yet, whether in Egyptian, Persian, or Greek, the meaning remains the same. This is because speech is an image of mind, and mind is an image of Atum. All right, that's the Hermetica. And when they say Atum, they're referring to God, God as light. And also going to just let you know that Santos and other people are not pulling this stuff out of thin air. Go to this website here. This is just one of the first ones that popped up when I got online here. Hebrews and the Vedic Brahmins. Just showing some of the roots of Hebrew, which gave birth to our Bible, which is all Abrahamic thought, Abrahamic religion, which is all from Egypt. And here I'm quoting Dr. Samar Abbas in India, Aligarh, India. In 1979, the Oriental Institute of Baroda published the paper entitled "The Hebrews Belong to a Branch of the Vedic Aryans." This was followed up by a previous article on the same topic published by the same author, Professor Mohan Sukula. Hope I didn't ruin his name there. In the Vishvevaranda Ideological Journal in 1976, the basic thesis of these papers is that the Hebrews represent an offshoot of the Vedic Brahmins. It may be instructive to review Shukla's paper, as they serve to illustrate the common origin of Jews and Brahmins. So, it's a long article, but there you go. Basically, this is not new thought. So I'm going to get into it, and what we're going to do is we're going to use some root words that stem from mostly Hebrew through Aramaic and Greek, and then into the Romance languages, and then into English, and show you how some of these roots have significant meaning that once you know them, they bring a syncretism into your mind and give you a deeper meaning of what the words really mean in all their various forms. Now, when it comes to doing occult studies of root words, you have to be a little bit flexible, and you have to be able to use mirroring of certain letters and reversal of certain letters because, as you know, like for example, in French, le in front of a word is basically the equivalent in Spanish of el. So you have to be able to be a little bit flexible and mirror things and move some things around. But just because we move them around doesn't mean that they're not accurate in what I'm presenting here and what Santos Bonacci has presented. So we're going to relate Adam and Eve to the two pillars in the Garden of Eden, the pillar of life, or the tree of life, and the tree of knowledge. I'm going to show you what these two things actually are. The tree of life and the tree of knowledge represent duality. And all of our religions come from the sun's elliptical astrotheological stories. So hopefully you're not one of those people that takes scripture as literal translations. If you are, you're just getting the very basic meaning of the scriptures. There's actually much deeper meanings than the literal translations. But first we're going to start off with the symbol for man. So this is man, and this is symbol for woman. This is pretty much universal. You see this on toilets all over the world. And this is representing the circle of spirit and the circle of spirit. And this is representing electric light moving direct. So it's an arrow moving upward. And the cross here is actually where we get our solar cross. And that cross is actually the same symbol for Earth. This is the symbol for Earth in astrology. And this is basically female. That's why Earth is Mother Earth. She's feminine. And she represents matter. And Egyptian, she was called M-A-A-T, Mat. And it's a goddess. It's basically the same thing as Isis, just in the material form, the Mother Earth, or the Mother Goddess. And this is where we get the word mother, it's where we get the word matter. We get a lot of words from that. So under each column, this would be masculine, this would be feminine. So we're going to start out with Mars, because this is also the symbol for Mars. There's no coincidence there. And Venus. Mars and Venus. So masculine, feminine. Mars is a masculine planet in astrology, and Venus is a feminine planet. And we're going to show how all these root words are interchangeable, and they talk about the duality of the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. So moving right along, Adam and Eve. All right. Well, Adam is referring to the masculine of Mars, the masculine quality. And in Hebrew, one of their masculine gods was Ma Dim. And you can see A-D-I-M in here. You can see A-D-I-M, which is Adam. So A-D-A-M, so you have to be able to remember to be flexible. The I and the A, they do change throughout time, and depending on how you use it and in what language and in what context. But we're talking about the roots and their meaning. So Adam and Eve. And you can look right here in Venus, and you can see E-V. Venus, Eve. So they have a similar root already going on there. We'll go back down to the word dawn, which refers to morning. Well, dawn is also referring to the sun in the morning time. It's a certain type of light that arises in the morning. And this is also what Adonai refers to in Hebrew. So Adon is Adam, 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 dawn, Adon, dawn. Same roots. And then we can go to Eve, and we can find the word evening, or even. So even, is Eve. And in numbers, all the odd numbers are masculine in numerology, and all the even numbers are feminine. And this is where we get even. So the number 2 would be feminine, and the number 1 would be masculine, which is just Adam and Eve. So Eve evens things out. This is why Libra on the scales is always a woman. She's holding the scales of Libra, and that is at the equinox, when the days of the year are even. 12 hours of light, 12 hours of darkness. She's holding the scales in balance, and that is the equinox, which is even. And that's also where we get the word evening. The evening is on the clock where the sun goes down, where things even out. Your day is even. Then we'll go back to numbers. We'll go masculine numbers, like I said before, are odd and even for female. So you got Eve, Venus, even, Venus. Adam, dawn, morning, Adonai, odd, Mars. These are all masculine qualities. The number 1 is masculine, and the number 1 is spelled O-N-E. But in Egypt, one of their sun gods that was masculine was called On. And this is where we get the word one, because it's not divided, it's oneness. So they called it On. And this is where we get the word on, where we say on or off, we get on, which is one, or at one man, which is a masculine quality. It's direct, it's electric. And then 2, under Eve, the reason why 2 is feminine is because 1 cannot be divided. 2 is the first number, and really the main number that can be split evenly or divided. So we have TWO, which actually means to divide. And one thing in etymology you have to understand is that the W is really a double V. That was originally a double V. And so we get the V sound for like Eve or Ave. So the Va, this would be, if you made this double V, it would be Vo. And the T actually represents back to that symbol of the woman. The equinoxes are split. So the equinoxes and the solstices make a cross, a solar cross. This is where we get our cross from. And it's division. It's dividing the year or the day or the great year into two parts, 2 equal parts, day and night, up and down, light and darkness, heaven and hell. So the female quality is always, in numerology, is always 2, and it's always divided. So this VV, this is the female symbol for division, and the VVO is really not a stretch to go to VE. So Vo, V is really Eve. All right, hopefully that's not too hard for you guys to follow. And we can go to the word atom, which is Adam, only we have this cross here, this earth matter cross. It's a symbol for the earth. That's the symbol for the earth. And the atom is, the is on here, which is the same thing in Sanskrit as Om, the Om vibration, the vibration of oneness in the universe. The T represents that split, that duality. However, in Greek, where we get the alpha, which is what we call A, an A at the beginning of a word is always alpha privative. And alpha privative means that the A at the beginning of a word negates the meaning of that word. So for example, in Sanskrit, you have a word for God called Anama. Well, Nama means name. And anama means no name. So it's basically negating. Alpha privative is negating the name. So they would say God is nameless. Like the Hebrews, you couldn't have a name for God because it encompassed everything. So they would say God's name is anama, which is no name. So the alpha privative principle still applies here to atom, which is Adam. And it's basically saying the A is negating the division, the two, the tom, the division of the one. It's kind of an intense word. So it's basically saying all is one by saying tom, which represents division or the splitting of om, the splitting of oneness, the duality of oneness, is basically saying no splitting. I know this is funny. No splitting of om. No splitting of oneness, which means oneness. So that's why atoms are our basic unit in quantum physics for oneness. It's an atom. It's indivisible. So this atom actually means not splittable or not divisible. So hopefully you got that. Moving on. You have L words that refer to Eve. So the EV is also represented in Hebrew as El, which is also sometimes reversed as El, like La. So certain L words have feminine qualities as well, depending on what language you're looking at them in. For example, an electron, so we're talking about atoms. Electron. Well, the E is saying Eve, which is feminine, and the cross here again is division, and the RO is actually Ra, the sun god, which is actually a masculine quality. So this is primarily a feminine quality, but it does encompass both, an electron. So you have to look at these roots, like L and Rho are basically certain aspects of light, either masculine or feminine. So Rho is Ra, is Ru, is Re, is Re. We'll get to that in a second. We'll do some Ra words. Probably one of the most common words you see in biblical or Abrahamic thought that refers to the man is ram. Aries, the ram. Jesus is a lamb. But the ram of God or the lamb of God refers back to Mars, because ram backwards is Mar. So this would be M-A-R-S, Mars, if you did backwards. And it refers to the masculine quality. The ram is at Aries, and Aries refers to the head in the zodiac. So ram always refers to the higher mind, the higher brain, and it's masculine. Whereas we get the word ewe, which is a female sheep, is a ewe. And again, we have this W, which is also a double V. So this is really just Eve, ewe, Eve, ewe. So this would be the feminine version of ram. And ram has also got a ton of meaning in it. I mean, we get Abram, which means father ram. Abraham means father ram. Abraham, this is all Abrahamic thought or Abrahamic religion. The word Ra, the radiance of the sun, is in there, which is always masculine. Ra, ram. Mar, which is Mars. Mars backwards is also Mary, maritime. I know that's feminine, but still, Abram is actually a balance between masculine and feminine, but starting at the head, starting with masculinity, Abram. We also get the word Brahma, and you can see the Ra right there, which is masculine. Brahma, Abraham, Ram. It's all referring to Ram. The word Hiram, like in Freemasons, Hiram Abiff supposedly built the Temple of Solomon. And the Temple of Solomon, little segue here, is the soul of man. And this temple is actually not a physical structure made of stone. Solomon, the Temple of Solomon by Hiram, is just a story. This is the higher brain, the higher mind. Hiram, Father Ra, built the Temple of Solomon, which is the soul of man, where man's soul dwells, and this is actually the human body. So Hiram is the mind, the higher brain. The brain is the first part of the body in the embryonic process to develop. So the brain and the spinal cord are first, and they actually build the body where the soul of man is encompassed. So Hiram is actually not a person, and the Temple of Solomon is actually your body. So hopefully you follow me there. And these words actually have multiple meanings in different places, so these words have different meanings in like medical language, in Latin, in Sunday school, in the different levels of spiritual scripture interpretations. But knowing the roots of all these words will actually show you how all of those different meanings are synced together, and you get the true meaning of what the word means, what it resonates as. And then you have to apply it as to what you're talking about, like what subject matter you're talking about. So we also get, from Ra, we also have Yang, which is masculine, and Yin, which is feminine or Venus. Let's see here. We have a lot more. I'm gonna erase some of these just so we can continue on. Hopefully you guys got all that. Pause the video if you want to, ponder this stuff and look at it, look things up. Let's see. We got Abram. I just said that. So who in Abrahamic thought? So Abraham, which is Abram, Father Ram, was married to Sarah in the Bible, right? Whoops, I didn't spell that right. Sarah. So Abraham and Sarah is just masculine and feminine. So Abraham and Sarah in other cultures would be like, in India, it's Brahma or Brahm, and Sarah Swarti. So this is the Sanskrit word for these two same principles, the same people, if you will, or the same story, if you will. They just called her Saraswati. It's actually much older than Hebrew. The Hebrews got the story from the Vedic scriptures, so they just shortened it to Abraham and Sarah. But originally it was Saraswati and Brahma or Abram or Abraham, masculine and feminine. And then this is cool because we were talking about the head being the ram. Well, this is where we get the word in your body. This is where we get the word Brahm. Right? Well, what's a Brahm? Well, Brahm is part of your cerebrum. Cerebrum. Cerebrum is your higher brain. Your cerebellum is your lower brain. So this is actually where these root words mean. So these refer to the body. So the Ram, Abram, Hiram, Father Ram, Aries Ram is all in your head. It's all referring to your brain, your higher mind, because all these stories of religion came from the stars, the solar system, and they actually apply to you, the human body. God is within, right? God is light. The light is within. The sunlight that hits you every day shines on every single person equally, and so you're aware of it through your brain, your mind, your higher mind. The light of God hits you in your cerebrum, masculine, feminine. Your brain's divided into two sides. Your body's divided into two sides. This is two sides. This is Mars and Venus. This is two sides of your mind, your masculine side, your feminine side. Your emotional body is divided in two. We look at the world in through dualistic eyes, because we have two eyes, two hands, two nostrils, two legs, two lungs. However, it's really all one. And when you start to see the roots of these words and you start to sync them together and realize all your stories come from these ideas of oneness. And the whole point is to get you back to oneness. However, that's a different story. It's been corrupted, and people want to keep you, duality. They want you to be dual, so you don't get to oneness. But syncretism is all about oneness, wholeness. So we have the ancient Roman festival of grains, which was called, if I spell this right, it was called Cerealis or Cerealia. I'm not sure if that's spelled right, but it was called Cerealia, and she was the goddess of grain. And this happened in the spring, which was in Aries, because it was the goddess Cerealis was merging in the spring, the month of first fruits, with Brahma or Brahm or Abraham, and giving birth through grains that you would harvest. So their ancient Roman festival was always in the spring. It was called Cerealis, and that's the name of the god, Ceria or Suri, Cerealis, which is Sarah, Saraswati, Sarah. It's just a feminine goddess. Obviously Abraham is a masculine god or godlike man. Brahman, godlike man. Abram, godlike man. Hiram, godlike man. These are all just masculine ideas for the same thing through etymology, through words. So we'll go down and we'll go into good and evil. Okay, well, there's Eve right there. And feminine qualities are not evil, but they are dualistic or dividing. And so people have connotated them as being evil. So Eve, EV right there, EVI is Evie, is divisive, or it's two instead of one. So that's why she gets that bad rap. Good. Well, good is not too far from God. And God is opposed by the devil, which is just evil with a D on it, which is basically means do evil or of evil. Devil. So it's not really a person or a spirit or a deity. It's what's going on in your mind. If you're doing evil things, then you're devilish. You're encompassing lower-minded thinking, which makes you split in two, dualistic, makes you divisive. It makes you, instead of love your fellow man, it makes you secretly want to harm him for your own selfishness and that sort of thing. So God is not really far from Gad, which is in Hebrew. There's the tribe of Gad, and the tribe of Gad actually was, in Hebrew, Gad was a goat. So it's the goat tribe. This is where we get the Gospels, the goat spells. It's the spell or the speaking of the goat tribe, of the Gospels. And Gad, goat, is not too far from ram. Goat is a ram. Same idea. Even though it's a different Greek word, we can see the trend from the masculine ram and the goat and the god. So